Hello friends, welcome to Shiksharthi. In this session, we shall be discussing how to write down a non-integer in its expanded form. So let's start. Now the prerequisites for this session is we are assuming that you know what is a non-integer, right? And then we'll talk about some special terms that are used when we write down a non-integer in its expanded form. So the thing that we need to know here is there are two terms. One is the place value and the other one is the face value. So we are not going to discuss much of this in detail because we have already discussed about this in the earlier session. So you are requested to go through the session on how to write down the expanded notation of the integers first before you do this session. Okay. So place value and face value are two things which will be used throughout when we talk about the expanded notation. So we'll denote place value by PV and the face value by FV. Okay. Further to this, let me take a number, and the number here refers to a non-integer. So a non-integer is a number which is written after a decimal point. And why do we call it as a decimal point? Because when we are talking about decimal numbers, then we will call it as a decimal point. If we are talking about any other number system other than the decimal number system, then we talk about that number system. Incidentally, we are talking about decimal number system. So you will see that the very first digit that is used after the decimal point here is known as the tenths digit. Don't get tensed. The second number that is written after the decimal point, we call it as the hundredth or the hundredths placed digit. So let's say hundredths placed digit. And why are we using the word place? Because it has been placed in the hundredth place. And the third digit that we are writing here, incidentally, will be known as the thousandth. Or we call it as thousandths placed digit. Once you know this, then it becomes easier for a learner to go ahead. Right? Okay. Similarly, if I would have taken greater number of digits after the decimal point, which I have taken here only 3 digits, in that case, we could have talked about the naming of that digit. So now when we talk about, when I integrate this discussion with the discussion of place value, and if I talk about the place value, let's say the place value of the 10th digit, is what I can talk about. When I talk about the face value, I can talk about what is the face value of the 10th digit or the 10th placed digit. So let us start off this discussion, the discussion that we are doing now, with the help of the face value. So we have taken a number here as, now when we are saying a number, we have taken the number here as a non-integer, which is a decimal followed by a 1, 2, 3. So the very first digit that we have taken after the decimal point, we call it as the 10th placed digit. Similarly, the second digit that we have taken after the decimal point, we call it as the hundredths placed digit. And the third digit that we have taken after the decimal point here is, we call it as the thousandth digit. And now when we are talking about the place value or we are talking about the face value, the point that I'm trying to make here is whether it is an integer or a non-integer. But when we talk about the face value is nothing but the name of the digit. But when you're talking about the place value, then we talk about how many times does that digit appears in that place. How many times a digit appears in that place. Once we know these basics, it becomes quite easy to go ahead. Let's see how. So now what I am doing here is the 10th placed digit. What is the face value? So the face value of the 10th placed digit, let me just remove it. Is nothing but 1. So this is nothing but 1. Similarly, when we talk about the face value of the 100th digit, we know that it is nothing but the number name, which is 2. Analogously, the face value of the 1000th placed digit will be how much? It will be 3. But when you are talking about the place value of the 10th digit, and we know that the place value is how many times does a digit appear in that place. So in this case, it will be 1 into 10 to the power minus 1, which in a certain sense will be known as 1/10. This is the number name for it. Similarly, when we talk about the place value of the 100th digit, this will be what? 2 into 10 to the power minus 2, and we will call it as 2/100ths. Now, why are we using a terminology like hundredths here? And there we had said 1 because 1 is singular and 2 is plural. What I mean to say here is, if I would have had a number like 0.234, in that case we would have written this number as 2 into 10 to the power minus 1 plus 3 into 10 to the power minus 2 plus 4 into 10 to the power minus 3. In that case, what is the number name that I would have given to this? The number name would have been 2/10ths, because 2 is a plural count. It is more than 1, and 1 is a singular count, which is why if you would see here, we have written this as 1/10th. So coming back, finally we will say that now when we talk about the place value in the thousands place, so what is it? This is nothing but, what is the digit that we are using? 4 into 10 to the power minus 3. What is the number name that we are going to give this? We are going to say that this is 4000s. And this is the classical format in which we will be writing this. So for example, if I would have written 0.123, naturally for writing the number 0.123, we would go ahead from the left hand side to the right hand side. But when you are writing down its expanded notation, it is preferred that you write it from the right hand side to the left hand side, meaning thereby it is preferred. So meaning thereby this should have been written as 3 into 10 to the power minus 3 plus 2 into 10 to the power minus 2 plus 1 into 10 to the power minus 1. It is preferred if you write it like this. So a quick revision before we end this session. If I were to write down a number name for 1 divided by 100, I know it is a non-integer. I'll write what? I'll write this is 1/100th. If I have to write down the number name for 2 divided by 10, I'll write down 2/10ths. At the same time, if somebody gives me a question like 31 divided by 100, what is the number name? 31/100ths. 31/100ths is what I'm going to say.